Good evening. It is Thursday. Today was Rosh Chodesh Kislev, Tavshin Ayin Zayin, and we are having our second shiur in the series of 5 on the Reshimas Hamenorah of the Rebbe. Just want to, before we go into the body of the Reshima, as explained last time, I'm going to try to summarize what the Rebbe says instead of going through the text word for word, because we will never go, it'll take a very, very long time to do it that way. So we'll summarize, we'll get through the part where the Rebbe discusses the nigle and halachic aspect, the Talmudic and halachic aspects of it, and then we will hopefully focus more, the last two shiurim, hopefully we will dedicate, if it all works, to the Hasidic aspects of how the Rebbe translates that all into how it applies to a person's life and how it's relevant to us in our day-to-day, so to speak, in our service of Hashem. Another point, before we go on, last week we discussed the idea of the Neir Tomid, right? The Pasuk says, Lahal is Neir Tomid. If you look in your book, in part 1, as mentioned before, I've produced for this shiur, with the help of my son Mendel, well, he did most of the work actually, on the part 1 and part 2. He's in New Haven, and we've been communicating over the email and so on and so forth. So if you take a look in part 1, on slide 1, it basically, that's where it says, Savas b'nei Yisrael v'yikhoy lech Hashem ezay zoch kosis lamoyer laha'alois neir tomid. Right? So the translation command is, like people to bring you clear oil of beaten olives for lighting, to raise the flame always. What does it mean, tamid? If you lit it once a day in the evening, what would tamid mean? Tamid would be interpreted as being regularly, like the korban tamid, right? For example, like the korban tamid shel shachar, the constant korban. It's not that you had to shecht an animal all the time. You brought it once in the morning and once in the evening. And that's why it's called korban tamid, because it was done with regularity. The same interpretation would apply also for the lighting of the menorah, where it would mean regularly. Just a second. That's according to one opinion. That's the main opinion that says that it's in the evening. The next one is the Rambam. The Rambam says that it was lit twice a day. In other words, the menorah actually burnt 24 hours a day. Or that was the idea. So he would light it in the evening with enough oil to burn all night. On the odd occasion, it might have gone out for whatever reason, but it burnt all night. Then in the morning it came and the lights have gone out, he lit it again. So there was this cycle of constancy of the menorah burning. Then there's another point of the Talmud which applies to the Neir HaMa'arovi. The Neir HaMa'arovi had the Western candle had a miraculous aspect to it, where according to all opinions that applied, until Shimon HaTzadik passed away, the Neir HaMa'arovi, the Western candle, miraculously burnt all day. So in other words, it burnt for 24 hours. He would put in the same amount of oil. The Kohen would put in the same amount of oil into the Neir HaMa'arovi like all the rest, which means to say he put in a half a lug, which was generally enough for the longest night of the year. And nevertheless, despite the fact that it had oil basically for 12 hours or thereabouts, right? Depending on whether if it was in the winter, it was longer, in the summer, shorter, but call it that whatever, that amount. It burnt for basically 24 hours. And that was a nest, that was a miracle. That's according to everybody. Then, of course, so that's also the idea of Tomid, where there was an element of Tomid, a miraculous element of Tomid. And then, of course, I also mentioned the Rabbi Chanina's Gan HaKohanim, who the Medrash Tanchuma, that says that Rabbi Chanina's Gan HaKohanim testified that he said, Omer Rabbi Chanina's Gan HaKohanim, Ani hayisi mishamesh bebeis hamikdash. I was serving in the Beis Hamikdash. This is not in the slides. And there was a miraculous event took place in the menorah. If it would be lit from Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year, It wouldn't go out until the next year. So he seems to say, this seems to imply that the whole Hamenorah burnt all year. Not just the western, at least for a certain period, when the Reshimas Gana Kohanim was there. And of course, the question is, if that's the case, what about the mitzvah of lighting the Hamenorah? If it burnt all the time, how do you perform the mitzvah of lighting the Hamenorah? So this question is asked, and especially according to the opinions who say that you're not allowed to put out the candles that are burning. If they're still burning, you can't put them out, according to many opinions. So how do they perform the mitzvah? You can't say that, and especially since he said that it burnt all year. So there are a number of answers brought. One answer is brought that that according to the according to some opinions, that for a new lighting which you needed to perform, you were allowed to put it out. Okay. Another answer is that what they would do is, this is brought in Shal Shuvas Minchas Yitzchak, the name of the Ger Rebbe, interestingly, that he would do it by putting in a few drops of oil. He would add a few drops of oil, and that would be considered hadlaka, because on Shabbos, he says his reasoning is that on Shabbos there's a candle burning, and the person adds a few drops of oil to the candle, he is over. It's considered madlik. It's considered like you're lighting. So therefore, you were able to do that over here as well. But this is just an interesting side discussion, just to clarify, because we had a bit of a discussion about it last week, and it wasn't quite clear. So just to clarify this idea of Tomid and what Madam with the name of and so on and so forth. So now let's go straight into the Reshima. The Rebbe begins the Reshima. If you look at your addendum here, you can have here's a copy, part 2. You have one? Pass it on to Gershon, please. The Rebbe begins the Reshima by focusing in on 2 Mishnahs in Masechta Tomid, in the tractate of Tomid, where the Mishnah discusses what was the order of service in the Beis HaMikdash, in the temple, and how it all worked, how they designated which kohen to perform which service. So in chapter 3 of Tomid, basically it went by lots. They drew lots, and whoever merited to do it had his job. So then there was somebody that was zeicha, that won the zchus, the merit of preparing the menorah, right? And when was that done? In the morning. So he would come in and he would go to prepare the menorah. So the Mishnah says in Tomid chapter 3, the one who won the right to remove the ashes from the menorah, he would enter the Beis HaMikdash. If he found the 2 eastern lamps still lit, I assume we'll discuss which were the eastern lamps. If you remember, last year we discussed whether it stood east to west or north to south. So what does it mean eastern? We'll see in a minute. And you'll see in the brackets it says, according to other versions, it says western. It's either Mizrochim or Marovim. So anyway, he found the 2 eastern lamps still lit. So the kohen, he would remove the ash from the other lamps and leave the ones burning in their place. So he didn't deal with those 2 eastern ones because they were still lit. He dealt with the rest of them. If he found them extinguished, he would remove the ashes from them and rekindle them, or he would be medashin them. He would rekindle them from the ones that were still lit, and then remove the ashes from the rest. That's one Mishnah. Mishnah number 2 is in chapter 6. The one who had won the right to remove the ashes from the menorah went in. If he found the 2 eastern, according to other versions, the western lamps still burning, he would remove the ash from the eastern one and left the western one burning. Seems to say something different than the previous Mishnah. Since from it, the priest, the kohen, lit the menorah in the evening. If he found it extinguished, he would remove the ashes, or he would prepare the candle from it. He would remove the ashes from it and rekindle it from the altar of the Olah offering. So this Mishnah seems to be saying 2 different things. What's the Mishnah talking about? It's not clear what the Mishnah is referring to. So here the Rebbe explains these 2 Mishnahs. The Rebbe is going to explain.
Where he gets the light from the island.
And what does the first Mishnah say?
How do you light from the oil?
It doesn't tell you.
He would rekindle them from the ones that were still lit. It says in the first Mishnah. And here it says he would get them
from another candle.
From the Mizbeach.
From the Mizbeach oil. Parts. Yeah. That's what you have to do.
It must be about 20, 30 amas.
Just one word on that. So what? One word on that. That's speaking about the Ner HaMa'arovi. Every other candle could be lit from the other candles, and we'll soon see how that was done. The Ner HaMa'arovi had to be lit from the Mizbeach Ha'olah. Why? Because concerning the Mizbeach Ha'olah it says Yarech Oisei Tomid, the Marocha, the fire on the Oila altar had to be there Tomid always. And concerning the Ner HaMa'arovi it also says Tomid. So Tomid, it can only be lit from there. The other ones is a different status. Okay. So let's go in now to see how the Rebbe explains this Mishnah. What's the problem? According to the Rambam, he explains it. And again, the main focus is the Rambam. We're not going to get into how the others explain it. The Rambam holds that this Mishnah goes according to the Tana Rebbe, who says that the menorah stood east to west. Point number one, as we discussed at length in last week's year. Point number two, according to the Rambam, in Rebbe's opinion, all the candles pointed westward. Right? If you look in the part 1 handbook, if you remember from last week, towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim. On slide 19, for those that don't have it, this is it. They all pointed, this is east, this is west. Right? Did I get it right? Here's the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So it stood east to west. This is Rebbe's opinion. And this is the Rambam's opinion in Rebbe, that all the lights pointed towards the west. And again, if you remember, the Rambam says, according to Rebbe, the Ner HaMa'arovi was the one with the Aleph on the top, the one closest to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Okay?
This is when with the length of the...
Correct. Okay? So that's point number 2. And the Rambam interprets, as we said last time also, what does it mean, Lifnei Hashem? Yarech Oisei Lifnei Hashem. Lifnei means before. So the innermost part. That's what he means to say, is that they all point in that direction. So now what happens is like this. He comes in the morning. If the 2 eastern candles were burning, meaning to say, these 2, Zayin and Vov, right? He cleans the other 5, Aleph through Hey. Because as you remember, what does it say in Abba Shaul's Mishnah? That there was the Hatava of 5 candles, then there was an interruption with an Aveda, and then there was the Hatava, the preparation of 2 candles. So if he finds these 2 burning, he deals with these 5, whatever he did with them.
Did you say he lights Vov first or Zion
That's right,
first? Did you not say
He would. No, that's according to the opinions that say that the Ner HaMa'arovi was Vov. But the Rambam says the Ner HaMa'arovi, according to the Rambam, yes.
Vov and Zion burning.
One second. Because you don't extinguish them. Let's first deal with the dry taich of the Mishnah, okay?
You're going to extinguish the
Hold on. No, so these are out. These are all out. Only these two are on. These are
Can
out.
never go out.
Sorry?
Aleph can never go out.
Good question. The Rebbe is going to deal with that. The Rebbe will deal with that. The Ner HaMa'arovi, he's right. The Ner HaMa'arovi had special status, right? We'll see in a minute. The Rebbe addresses that. So, step by step. So when the Rambam says that they dealt with these 5 in the morning, it's not only the cleaning, he also lit them because the Rambam holds that you light the menorah also in the morning. 1 second, please. Let me just go through the Mishnah. The Ner HaMa'arovi was included in the process. How? We'll see in a minute. So he did the 5, he went and he did another Aveda, he comes back in, and he cleans and lights the 2 eastern ones. If in the morning the 2 eastern candles are out, what does he do? He cleans them, he lights them along with, so he does Zayin and Vov, Hey, Dalet and Gimel. Because you got to do 5, right? And then he deals with the 2 western ones, because he didn't yet clean them, because they were burning, right? So in the morning, the 2 eastern candles were out, he cleans them and lights them along with the 3 next to them, stops and goes to another Aveda, comes back in again. If the 2 western ones that he did not yet clean are burning, he cleans the eastern one, meaning Bays. Okay? He cleans Bays and leaves the Ma'arovi burning. Why? Because as we just said, the Ma'arovi has to burn until the evening. If the Ma'arovi went out, he cleans them and lights it as well. Okay? Next.
And will there be enough if he leaves the Maravi burning? Then that could be the first one to go out.
So he would add oil. He would add oil. That's all. So
Around the wick.
this is the general. Now the Rebbe goes into detail to explain the Mishnah. So let's try to follow along through the two Mishnahs. Okay? Sorry? Barzu. Let's not get sidetracked with other things. Of course, yeah. Shabbos is Tomid. Tomid. It's Deiche. Everything. So. I'm sorry?
In the base of Mikdash, you could do it.
Tomid. It was done always. You did carbon Tomid on Shabbos too? Of course. So the one who, now let's go to the Mishnah. The first Mishnah. This is Tomid 3. The one who won the right to prepare the menorah, he would enter the Beis HaMikdash. If he found the two eastern lamps still lit, so the Girsa of the Rambam, the text of the version of the Rambam in the first Mishnah, in other words, the Mishnah in chapter 3 is not Ma'arovim, but Mizrachim, right? If you remember, there were two. He says the two eastern ones, if he found them still lit, he would remove the ash from all the other 5 lamps. And from here we know that the Hatova, the first section of the Hatova, is done with 5, as we learn in the Abba Shaul's Mishnah, right? And he leaves the ones burning in their place. If he found them extinguished, again, we're talking about Zion and Vav. If he found these two extinguished, he would remove the ash from them, rekindle them from the ones that are still lit, and then remove the ash from the rest. What does that mean? He would do Zion, Vav, Hey, Dalet, and Gimel, right? So this teaches 2 things. Lighting is also in the morning. As you take a look, if you take a look in your in the second companion book, take a look at slide 26, right? This is from the Rambam in Mishnah Torah, his Psak, how the Rambam paskins, right? What is meant by the expression, the removal of the ashes from the menorah? Every lamp that has burnt out should have its wick and its remaining oil removed, and it should be cleaned. The Kohen would place another wick and other oil in it, using the half lug measure. The wick and oil he removed should be placed in the ash heap near the outer altar, together with the ashes removed from the inner altar and the outer altar. He should kindle any lamp that was extinguished. Kindling the lamp, what is meant? Kindling the lamp is what is meant by the term Hatova. So when did you do Hatova? When the Mishnah says you did it in the morning, clearly the Rambam says that you light it as well. Whenever you did Hatova, the main function of the Hatova is actually lighting the candles, and all the other ancillary aspects of it are secondary. Okay, so
addition is the cleaning out. Hatova is the lighting.
Correct. But when the Torah says Behetiva es haneros, right? When they say Behetiva es haneros, just a second. So when it says Behetiva es haneros, it means lighting according to the Rambam. So since we did it in the morning as well, as the Mishnah clearly over here says, it means you lit it as well. Just 1 second, please. We also learned from here, from the first Mishnah, that you light one candle from another candle. Because he says if there's some burning, you light it from the ones that have gone out, you light from the ones that are burning. That's the first Mishnah. Yes?
Why do you think like that? Why, if it was still going, why did you have to put it out and relight?
I'm sorry?
If it was still going, why did you have to put it out and relight?
Who says you put it out?
Because if you got there, there were 5. You said there were 5 out, but there were only 4 out.
Exactly.
So he's talking about that scenario. The Mishnah is talking about that scenario. From the way the Mishnah describes
What
it.
is half a lug about?
If you take a look in Chumash, I don't remember. I think it's in Pashas Emer. It says "Va'ha'imer asiris ha'efahu," that the Emer was a tenth of an ephah. So the Rashi over there gives a whole description of what the sizes are, how much the lug is. I don't remember exactly. It's quite a sizable amount. It's I don't remember offhand. Anyway, so that's Mishnah. 1 second. Mishnah 1. Now let's go to Mishnah 2. Mishnah 2 carries on from Mishnah 1. And it goes on and says like this. The one who won the right to remove the ashes from the menorah, the same kohen from the morning, went in again, the second time. Right? He did his avodah, and he came in a second time. And he found, in this situation, over here the gears of the Rambam is not Mizrachim, but it's Marovim. He found the 2 western lamps still burning. So what does it mean he found the 2 western lamps still burning? Aleph and Beis. Right? So the Mishnah, the second part of the first Mishnah was saying if he came in, the first scenario was he came in and he found the 2 eastern ones burning, so he deals with the other 5. If he found the 2 eastern ones that had gone out, he deals with the 2 eastern ones and the 3 next to it. So what's with the 2 western ones? They're still burning. So now he comes back in again after he's done the Avodah. And they're still burning. 1 second, and they're still burning. Right?
Why should it change?
Because it's half an hour later.
What's happening?
He's been out.
When to do the avoidance?
He went to do something else. It's an hour later.
So,
There was a gap.
the one who had won the right came back in, he comes in and he sees the 2 western ones. This Mishnah carries on from the second part of the previous Mishnah. So what happened was, he found the western ones still burning, right? He found the 2 western ones, the 2 western lamps still burning. He would be medashen. He would fix up the eastern one. So in other words, he would deal with Beis, and he would not touch Aleph
It's only if it's one out.
if they're still burning, right? He would deal with Beis. What does it mean he would fix it up? He would clean it, he would...
Even if base was still burning?
even if Beis was still burning. And the Maravi, he left.
And then relight it.
Since from it, he would have to light the Hamenorah in the evening. So this one he kept on burning, right? Now, if he found the Maravi extinguished, the second time around, this one was out. So he would deal with it, he would rekindle it from the Oila. That's the last part of the Mishnah where it says that if this is out, you prepare this one, this is in the morning, and then he would light it from the Mizbeach HaOila. He would take a fire for the Mizbeach HaOila, and he would light it, because as mentioned before, Tomid, right? So this is the explanation of the Rambam. This is the scenario the Mishnah discusses according to the Rambam. So now the question is, what happens in the scenario where these two are still lit? He comes in the second time and these 2 are still lit, right? The Rambam paskins that if a candle is burning, you don't put it out. So how is this different than this? If these 2 are still burning, the Mishnah seems to make a distinction between Beis and Aleph, right? He says you're Medash Beis and Aleph you don't. What's the difference? If it's still burning, it seems that whatever you're not doing to this, you don't do to this. Or whatever you are doing to this, you could do to this
Do
one.
you pour over the content of base into Aleph, and therefore you continue
No.
leftover oil?
No.
Therefore fueling-
No. So let's see how the Rebbe explains it.
Drown the wicked.
So if Beis and Aleph, the 2 western ones are still burning,
There's only one Western one.
but I'm talking, of course, what I'm saying, but the Mishnah is referring to Mizrochim and Marovim, not in the sense of Neir Hamarovi, but on which side they are. They're on the western side, right? So what happens then? So that's the question that Rebbe asks. So he says, perhaps the Rambam will hold, unlike the Rashba. The Rashba, according to the Sifri, these are the opinions that hold that you're not allowed to put out a candle that's burning, right? He will hold there's no prohibition against extinguishing a burning candle, the Rambam. Rather, he would hold that there's no obligation to extinguish and rekindle the lamp during the Hatova. You don't have to, right?
Okay, there's no obligation.
There's no obligation if you're preparing the candle and the candle is burning. There's no obligation to put it out and relight it. You can do whatever you need to do while the candle, if you can manage to do it while the candle is still burning, right?
Without drowning the wick.
No, you don't.
Yeah. So then you can go ahead and you can do the hatava or do whatever you need to do and let it burn, right? Now,
But you never add on.
It's
We don't
not
clean up.
much. It's a half a log. Half a log. It's half a log. Yeah.
so how is hatava fulfilled? By just fixing up the candle if they're burning. That's sufficient. That's what the Rambam will hold, right? So the Rambam will hold that the Beis candle, he could do the hatava any way he likes. He wants to put it out, he can put it out. He wants to leave it burning, he could leave it burning. How is it distinguished from the Maravi? The Maravi, he was not allowed to put out. Because if it's burning, it had to burn all the time, so he wasn't allowed. So that's the distinction that Rambam will make between the two. And that's the inference, that's the meaning of what the Mishnah says, that the Mizrachi, meaning to say Beis, the one to the left of the Neira Maravi, he would deal with it, and the Maravi, he would leave, meaning to say that for Beis, you had an option to put it out and to do the whole Hatava. Maravi, you could only do whatever you need to make it burn better, but you cannot put it out. You're not allowed to put it out.
So you could have it like most of the day, but just went out where you finished and you left, that it's all not burning.
Again?
You could have a situation where he finished in the morning, he didn't relight because it was still burning. As he left there,
No. When he comes there, he takes a look and he sees what's going on.
right.
Is there enough oil? Is the wick burning properly? And he deals with it. He fixes it up if he needs to. And it's under unusual circumstances that the candles went out. In fact, we'll talk about it later on. The Rebbe goes into a very interesting expose. Probably we'll touch upon it in the next year. What happens if the candles went out at night? How would it go out at night? The Beis Hamikdash was locked. What would cause it to go out and so forth?
No wind there.
No wind. And the Rebbe, if you remember, the smoke went straight, right? So why would? So we'll get to that later on in what scenario.
The size of the wick makes a difference.
You could have confused the wicks they had winter wicks and summer wicks. Let's not get into there now. We'll get to that later. Okay? So that's the explanation according to the Rambam, where they have in the second Mishnah the distinction between the Neir Hamarovi and the one next to it.
So did
Okay.
they ever check it at night?
No. The Beis Hamikdash was locked
Well,
at night. Okay.
but it could have gone out at night.
Another that we'll discuss in the next year, because that's the subject of the next year. Another way of explaining the Rambam is that perhaps the Rambam would say that the Western one he didn't touch at all. Okay? And he only dealt with the one next to it, the base one, right? The one to the left of the Ma'aravi. Yeah? And he didn't touch it at all. But be that as it may, the Rebbe says he has a question. He has a number of questions on the Rambam's interpretation of the Mishnah. One of the questions he asks is, the Mishnah gives a reason not to extinguish the Western one. What does the Mishnah say? Because he needed it to keep on burning, because in the evening he had to light all the other candles from that. Right? If he would put out the Neir Hamarovi in the morning and relight it, it would be the same thing. Right? If you're saying, if the Mishnah gives a reason why you should leave the Neir Hamarovi burning, right? If, according to the Rambam's interpretation, that if he found this one burning, he just leaves it, doesn't do anything. Why? Because he needed it to burn in order to light the menorah in the evening from it. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't put it out. You could put it out and relight it in the morning, like you did with the others.
Is
So
that the Rambam Shitta?
That's a question on the Rambam's
Question on
Shitta.
the Rambam.
And the Rebbe
And
leaves
if
it.
it's still a light in the morning, it doesn't mean it's still going to be a light in the evening.
Okay, so he could fill up more oil. He does what he can. I mean, the Ken is Kenovi, but he could does what he can to keep it going. But the Rebbe says if the Mishnah says the reason you keep it going is because you need to light it in the evening, you need to light from it in the evening. So according to all the other days that you only lit the menorah in the evening, so you can't put it out in the morning and relight it because you didn't light the candles in the morning. But according to the Rambam, that you lit the candles in the morning as well, so you could put it out and relight it. So that's a problem that Rebbe has with the Rambam's explanation, and he leaves it at that. Now the Rebbe moves on to explain the reasoning why the Rambam says this is the Neir Hamarovi and the Dinim. And he goes like this. Why does the Rambam hold that the Neir Hamarovi is the closest one to the Kodesh HaKadoshim? To say that, in other words, again, we're talking about Shittas Rebbe, who says that the menorah stood east to west. Most opinions, Rashi in Shabbos, Rashi in Yuma, in Megillah, in Menachos, Tosfos in Yuma, and in Menachos, the Raavad, the Ramban, and the Rashba, they all hold that the Neir Hamarovi, according to Rebbe, that it stood east to west, was Vov, was the second one off the east. The one that the Rambam goes against everybody in Pirush Mishnayos, and he says that the Neir Hamarovi is this. Why? What's compelling the Rambam to learn this? To learn like this?
Everybody else learns it's Vov.
That is Vov. The Rambam, I'm talking about
In Rebbe, they're learning?
in Rebbe, if it stood east to west. Okay? If it's Rebbe Elazar, Reb Shimon, according to his opinion, that it stood north to south, everybody agrees that the Neir Hamarovi was the central one. Okay? But in Rebbe, you have this machlekes. Right? Why does the Rambam choose? And again, I'm specifying this is in Pirush Mishnayos. In this Pirush Mishnayos, that's what the Rambam says. Why? So the Rebbe says like this.
And the Ram was long after all of them. Yeah?
No. They were contemporaries.
All the same.
Contemporaries, more or less. Rishonim. They were Rishonim. So the Rebbe says like this. If you take a look at slide 35 in the second part of your companion book, the one that I gave you today. I hope it's the right one. Yeah. So this is the Gemara in Menachos. The famous Gemara in Menachos. Remember, we had a big discussion last week about the 10 candelabras that Shlomo Melech made. This is the source of the machlekes between Rebbe and Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, whether the menorah stood east to west or stood north to south. So the Menachos states that where do we know that there was something special about one of the candles? Because it says Yarech Oisoi Lifnei Hashem, right? Rebbe says it stood north to it stood east to west because it says Oisoi in the singular. That's Neir Hamaravi, which had a special status, and it was Lifnei Hashem, before Hashem. If Rebbe says they stood north to south, they were all equidistant from the Kedesh HaKadoshim. So when you say that there was one that was Lifnei Hashem, there must be something special with one of them. So the Rambam says, according to the other opinions, that they say in the Rebbe's opinion that the Neir HaMaravi, the western one, was the first one off the east. Right? What kind of a Lifnei Hashem? All these 5 are more Lifnei Hashem than this one. They're all closer to the Kedesh HaKadoshim. So what kind of a Lifnei Hashem is that? How could you rightly call this Lifnei Hashem? The second one of the east? When there are 5 more that are closer. Question number 1. Number 2. The name the Gemara uses is Neir HaMa'aravi, the western candle. There's a general rule that the Chazal, or the Psukim in general, when they give a description, they're coming not to obscure, they're coming to clarify. So what kind of a Neir HaMa'aravi is it? This is not really Neir HaMa'aravi. You have to explain it's Neir HaMa'aravi because it's the second one of the east. And in Mavir and Al Mitzvahs, we discussed it at length in last week's Shiur. Right? But give it a name that describes it. If you say that this one is the Neir HaMa'aravi, it's a description. West means west. Point number 2, according to the Rambam. Among the opinions that say that these 2, that the Neir HaMa'aravi is this one, some of them are doichik, and I don't want to go into it now, but it's also in this Mishnah when they talk about the 2 eastern ones burning, that when the Neir HaMa'aravi burnt, which means the second one of the east, the first one also had to burn. Because it had to be clear that this is the Ma'aravi, that this is west. If none of them are burning, it's not clear that this is west. It's the only one burning. So you have to have Zion involved, in other words, the far left one, and the one next to it, both burning all day, which is a big deichik, the Rebbe says. It's to say such a thing, he says, it says Yarech Oisoi, singular. You're giving special status to the Neir HaMa'aravi because the pasuk says Oisoi, and all of a sudden, in the singular, all of a sudden you're saying that 2 are burning. It's a deichik. Another problem that Rambam has with everybody else.
They did not move, did they? They stayed in the same place.
Correct.
Right, so
Hang on.
how wouldn't you know where it is?
It has to be seen. When you look at it, you see one candle burning. If there's 2, you see this is on the left, this is on the right, this is east, this is west. It's clearer.
But if it's there for hundreds of years,
Still, that's what they say. So not all opinions say like that, but they claim that they have reasons to say that's what it was, and they insert it in the wording of the Mishnahs and Talmud that we mentioned before. Okay, but let's again focus on the Rambam, why he has these problems. So he has another problem with those days that say that the Maravi was the second one and 2 had to burn. It's a deichik. It says Yarech Oisoi. What's with Hamal? Why all of a sudden? And again, in the Talmud also, we don't find anywhere to support this position that there were 2 burning. It doesn't say that Neir HaMa'aravi is Maravi. It's always discussed in the singular, the Neir HaMa'aravi. In addition, if this is the case, if you say that there were always 2 burning, there would be another point of discord between Rebbe and Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon. According to the Rebbe, how many candles burnt in the terms of the Neir HaMa'aravi? 1, the western one. So Kumtu is according to this that not only are they arguing if it stood east to west,
Arguing how many?
or north to south, they're also arguing how many candles burnt. According to the Rebbe, you're going to say that 2 were burning because of the Neir HaMa'aravi as I just described, and according to them, there was only 1. Why do you want to expand the machlekes to give it such an interpretation? According to the Rambam, they're only arguing which way it stood, and 1 Neir HaMa'aravi burnt. Which one was it? According to the Rambam, it was the closest to the Kedesh HaKadoshim. According to the Elazar Reb Shimon, it was the middle one. But they all agree that only one candle burnt? Now he says something very interesting. We know that when it came to the miracle, why was the Neir Maravi special? Because there was a miracle. Why did Eibishter choose this one? What's with Amol? Why should he choose the second one off the left of the... Am I getting it right? The second one off the left.
You said last time that they couldn't pass a mitzvah.
Oh, so the Ravid says, because ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. So the Rebbe says, not passing over a mitzvah is fine for the Kohen. But for the Eibishter, is making miracles from the Himmel. What do you mean ein mavirin ala mitzvahs? If you're talking about a miracle, let him choose the Neir Maravi, the proper one. So according to the Rambam, that's what happened. It was the Neir Maravi. And the Rebbe says even more. Even if you're going to say that the reason why that it applies also min hashamayim, that from heaven you also apply ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. So the Rebbe says, where was the main Shechina? In the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And the Shechina projected itself out from Kodesh HaKadoshim into the rest of the Beis HaMikdash. So which one is, if the Eibishter chooses this one, he's being ma'ivir on Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dal, and Hey. So therefore he should choose Aleph. Not only that, he says, the Rebbe says, if you remember, in Chumash, it says concerning the sticks okay, that's the next point, right? So the Rebbe goes on and says, like, so the Rebbe goes and tries to explain what the Ravid says and so on and so forth. But according to the Rambam, west is west, Maravi is Maravi. The main point he says is like this: the reason why all others define Maravi as the second from the east is the issue they have with the Mishnah in Talmud, with these two candles burning, the right one, the left one. Again, they're trying to figure out what the Mishnah means, and they identify it in this way, and because of that, they get around the difficulties that they have in the Mishnah. Right? Because the Mishnah begins by saying, and like you said before, why happens to the two eastern ones? Why is the Mishnah singling out the east? It must mean that we're talking about a special status. What are we talking about? The Neir Maravi, which was the second off the left, and according to some opinions, the first one also had to burn. That's why the Mishnah talks about this scenario. That's according to them. Right? But according to the Rambam's interpretation above, that the Mishnah is just using a scenario. What happens if he comes in and he finds the two eastern ones burning? Right? There's no need for any special designation of Maravi to be the second off the left. And it can be interpreted Maravi literally. The western one means the westernmost candle. Lifnei Hashem. Right in front of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Right before Hashem. The most western one. And that is why the miracle happened with the Neir Maravi, the one that was closest to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. In Chumash it says, when it came to Matei Aaron, after the Machlekes of Korach, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu to take 12 sticks, and one for each tribe. And they should write their names on the sticks. And Aaron's name was written on the Shevet Levi stick. And it says they took them and they put them in front of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and they took Matei Aaron b'soich matoisam. Right? B'soich matoisam. In the middle. Says Rashi, what does it mean in the middle? He made sure that it wasn't close to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, so they shouldn't say that the miracle happened on this stick, because it was the closest to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Zet bedacht vandaan that what? That closeness to the Kodesh HaKadoshim is a maila, it has a special virtue, and that could cause a miracle. And that is Taki why, according to the Rambam, the Neir Maravi, which was the closest to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, was the one that burnt all the time, because that's where the Shekhinah was most powerful and present.
How does the Rambam split between the 2 and the 5? What are the 2 according to the Rambam?
He's just talking about a scenario. The Rebbe goes in, I don't want to go into it because it's, again, a very long arichas. The Rebbe goes in and explains what happens if he finds 3 burning or 2 burning. But it could all be extrapolated from the scenarios that the Mishnah presents.
To Abishol, there was 2 and 5.
Right. So that is the basic paradigm, if you will. Right? But then when you come in, anything could be going on. 2 could be burning, 3 could be burning. So the Rebbe says you can extrapolate all those different scenarios once you have the ground rules. So the Mishnah chooses a scenario.
There wasn't 2 statuses, the 5 and the 2.
There was.
Okay.
Which were the 2 according to Rambam?
According to you, just
It doesn't matter. That's what he's saying. According to the Rambam, it depends. If the 2 eastern ones, you always had to do, the first Tatova always had to be 5. So if the 2 eastern ones are burning, you dealt with the other 5. If the 2 western ones were out, you dealt with the 2 eastern ones were out, you dealt with the 2 eastern ones plus 3.
So if it was a basin, Dalit.
So exactly. So there was always 5, and depending on what was going on, whether they were out or burning or whatever, you had to figure out what to do.
But they could be 3 and 6 in any combination.
3 and 6 they can't be because there were only 7 candles.
3 and
Oh, you mean candle 3 and candle 6? Yeah. Absolutely.
But you still
And you extrapolate those rules from the scenario that the Mishnah represents. But the key question is, how do you interpret the 2 Mizrachim? According to everybody else, it's because of this Neira Maravi. The Rambam says no. It's just a scenario. And Maravi is the Western one. The Rebbe then addresses, okay, I'm going to move on swiftly now because we're running a bit late. The Rebbe then, what time is it? 25, okay. The Rebbe then addresses a few additional points which need clarification according to the Rambam's interpretation. The Sifri and the Teres Koyanim, right? They say, if you remember, we looked at, where is it? Let me try to find it here. If you look at the beginning of part 1,
Didn't they make any kind of...
just a second, Gershon, let me just get through it. We'll have questions in a minute.
What was burning, it was not burning?
No, otherwise there'd be no Gemara. They all knew there'd be no Gemara, no Reshimas.
But you have to know what he's asking.
It's an approach to Mitzias.
Yeah, okay. So that's half of the Gemara, isn't it?
If you take a look at slide 2 of part 1, slide 2. So it says, Lahalis ner tamid, shetahei ner hamaravi doilik todir. Right? So the special status was that the maravi had to burn always. So the Rebbe says, according to the Rambam, you lit all the candles all the time. All the candles were lit all the time. The Rambam says you lit the candles in the morning too.
Morning and at night.
The morning and at night. So how's the ner tamid, how's the ner maravi special? The tamid seems to be applying to all of them.
But the Maravi could have stayed alight.
Oh, so the Rebbe says, let's see how the Rebbe answers this. One of the answers the Rebbe gives is that he will interpret it, that it refers to the time of the Ness. That the other ones had to be lit. This one you didn't need to light because it was burning. It was a miracle, it kept on burning. That's one answer the Rebbe gives. Then the Rebbe says that according to this interpretation, there's a question that Rabbi Elchanan asks in a Tosfos in Chagiga, which could be answered according to the above explanation. The Rebbe then queries why in the Yad the Rambam does not state that the evening lighting had to be started from the Neira Maravi. He just points out a few questions that he has on the Rambam. Then the Rebbe queries, I'm just mentioning it because I don't want to go through it in detail, but I'm just mentioning it because the Rebbe mentions it. The Rebbe then queries whether the obligation to light in the evening from the Maravi is for all the candles. In other words, if you remember, the Mishnah said that the Neira Maravi had to be lit from the Mizbeach HaOlah, from the fire on the Mizbeach HaOlah, Tomid Tomid. The other ones had to be lit, could be lit or were lit one from the other. So, as Getzel mentioned, the question is, the Rebbe says, did each one have to be lit? Did they have to stretch the wicks or pull the wicks out and all be lit from the Maravi? Or once you lit the one next to the Maravi from the Neira Maravi, then you could light each one from each other. Instead of having to schlep all the wicks to the Maravi, perhaps you can just light the one next to the Maravi and then light each one from each other all the way to the first one. So the Rebbe queries that.
Was there Shamas? There had to be, because from the Ayla to there, how else could it be?
It would seem logical, no?
Well, they could have taken the wick itself.
But the wick upon that?
It's not so simple because the Gemara says that you can't light. There's a discussion in the Gemara whether you could use a match or, like you say, a shamash. The Gemara basically says no, because bizoyin mitzvah, etc. So they had to light the Neira Maravi from the Oila, the Marocha on the Oila. Whatever, yeah. I mean, they figured they knew what to do. They had all these different tools, and they were experienced. They knew what they were doing. One more point before we wrap it up for today. The Rambam's explanation, the Rebbe goes on to explain the Rambam's reasoning for the direction of the cups. According to the Rambam, you see, the point is this. If you look in the first part, the slide that has the... Well, let's have a look here. Look at slide number 12.
In the first part.
First part. Slide number 12. So we have the machlekes of Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, and Rebbe. Which way the Menorah faced? Did it face east? Did it face east to west, or did it face north to south? We touched upon it a little bit in last week's share. Did it face east to west? Did it face north to south? That's question number one. Question number two, in which direction were the candles pointing? It's not a foregone conclusion that just because it stood in a certain direction, they had to point in different directions. So in other words, the Rambam's opinion in Rebbe says they stood east to west. The Rambam says all the candles pointed west. Again, it's only the Rambam. Others say that they also pointed towards each other. Like, in other words, the ones on the right, on the left side, pointed towards the middle one. The ones on the right also pointed towards the middle one. So the ones on the left, the left, pointed towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The ones on the right pointed away from the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The three on the left pointed towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Three on the right pointed away from the Kodesh HaKadoshim to the middle one. Why? Because it says El Mul Pnei Hamenorah. Right? The Rambam goes on and says, according to the Rebbe, no, they all point in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the Rebbe says like this: Why can't? He says, why did he say this? So he says we can't say because the Menorah says the pasuk says, Yo'iru Shivas Haneros. El Mul Pnei Hamenorah Yo'iru Shivas Haneros is the lashon of the pasuk, that it should face towards the Pnei Hamenorah all the seven candles, the Shivas Haneros, the seven. If only three are pointing towards the middle one, and the other three are also pointing towards the middle one, so it's six. It's not seven. Says the Rebbe, okay, how is the Rambam going to explain it according to Rav Elazar Reb Shimon? According to Rav Elazar Reb Shimon, everybody agrees that what? That they're facing the middle one. So how are you going to explain, according to Rav Elazar Reb Shimon, that it stood north to south? Yeah? So everybody agrees, even the Rambam will agree that they all point to the middle. So how would you explain Shivas Haneros and Rav Elazar Reb Shimon? The way you explain it there, you explain it in Rebbe. And how did the Dak explain it over there? So he brings a few answers. There's a aim, the Rabbi Yom Mizrahi, who was a Pirush on Rashi, on this pasuk in Bala Yischa. He says that El Mul Pnei Hamenorah means, the Shivas Haneros means the ones that are left over from the seven. Of the seven, besides the Pnei Hamenorah, so in other words, six.
Not the middle. The middle one's already.
Yeah.
How do you explain that? It means,
Whatever, however you'll explain it there, you'll explain it here. So, because according to the Rambam's interpretation, is that there's another machlekes between Rebbe and Rav Elazar Reb Shimon. Not only in which direction did the Menorah stand, east to west, north to south, but also in which direction were the candles pointing. Furthermore, says the Rebbe, if you take a look at the Sifri, take a look at slide 35 in part 2 of your companion book. Slide 33 and 34. So first on 33, this is the pasuk in Baha'u'llah Yischa. David Elad and speak to Aaron and say to him, when you light the lamps, the seven lamps shall cast their light toward the face of the menorah. Says Rashi, shall cast their light, the six on the six branches, the three eastern ones, that is their wicks, facing towards the center one, and likewise the three western ones, meaning the wicks, the tops of their wicks, facing towards the center one. Note that Rashi says eastern and western. So he's talking over here according to the day of whom? Rebbe. And he says that they were facing where? Towards the middle. Where does Rashi take this from? So take a look at slide 34. It's from the Sifri. Okay, so mainly you could say that the Rambam argues with Rashi. But the Sifri is Tanoim. The Sifri is Tanoim. Sorry? The middle one is the seventh.
Straight up.
Yeah. So what does the Sifri say?
They were all going that way.
Have a look at the Sifri. Why was the Pasha said? Since the verse stated, the lamps shall be so mounted as to give the light on the front side. You may have thought that all the candles should be facing the front side. To negate this, the verse states, let them give light at the front of the lampstand. This means that the candles should be parallel to the candles and vice versa. How so? 3 facing east, 3 facing west, and 1 in the middle. What we end up with is all of them facing the middle candle. And again, what does the Sifri say? East and west. So according to whose opinion are we going? Rebbe. So the Rambam is arguing with the Sifri. He seems to be taking what's his basis for giving a different opinion than the Sifri? Comes the Rebbe and says the basis is the Gemara in Menachos. This famous Gemara that we spoke about, which way the machlekes, the original machlekes between Rebbe and Rav Elazar ben Shimon, the Rambam will say that it argues with the Sifri. The proof that the Gemara in Menachos argues with the Sifri, we will leave for the next year. But be that as it may, the Gemara in Menachos argues with the Sifri, that supports the Rambam's position, in Rebbe's opinion, that they all faced west. So indeed, there is a machlekes between Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, and Rebbe, according to this, in 2 points. A, in which direction did the menorah stand? B, which direction did the wick face? I know that's a lot of information.
There is singular,
But-
singular, yes.
But they all come together.
Neder singular, huh?
There is singular, yeah.
Then, by the way, the Rebbe is going to explain all this al Pechsidis, the 2 days, also al Pechsidis. So this is all a lead up to the main course, as it were.
So it seemed that you were describing only Rebbe according to the Rambam's commentary in the Mishnah, but in the end you're describing the machlokas, the two that are set out on page 12 of
Yeah, because the Rebbe is asking why, according to the Rambam, what's compelling the Rambam to say that he's also arguing with Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon in terms of which direction the candle is
and, that
facing?
seems, and it's only Rebbe according to Rambam in the Peres Mishnah.
Correct.
Is this opinion? All the other opinions.
Correct.
Top.
Correct.
So
Why?
that's
What you want to know about the other opinions?
Well,
If the Rambam has such a compelling argument from Menachos, right?
right.
Okay, so they have a basis as well. But the Rebbe here focuses on the Shittas Rambam mainly.
But
So that's
which,
why we're
but which it is around?
in Pirush Mishnayos.
Which is
Yeah.